So, you want to know how to animate like an anime. You want to know how these animators achieve such fluid movements with such complicated character designs, backgrounds, bright colors and effects, cell shading and composition. I spent hours, no, days learning all of these techniques in order to make my own animation. The best animation the world has ever seen. Hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's rewind. The other day, I saw my friend host a Steven Universe reanimate project. Being the good Samaritan I am, I decided to join. Our job was to reanimate the "It's over, isn't it?" scene from the show, a sequence regarded as one of the most beautiful scenes in the whole series. So, what part did I end up with? Okay, a bit underwhelming, but I can work with this. Now, you may be saying to yourself, "Ooh, Dylan, where's the anime? You told me you were going to draw anime." Well, I'm getting to it! I figured what better way to represent the beauty of the original scene than by replicating the anime style. Sure, anime isn't the only visually appealing style of animation, but it's what most people would generally consider pretty or beautiful. So, my plan was to study the techniques of the masters and cram as much detail into this 1-second shot as I could. One difference anime has to Western animation is the realistic movement. The characters move like how people move. So I used video reference of myself acting out Steven's movements in my rough animation. To make the movement feel smooth, I animated Steven on 2s, or 12 frames per second, and made sure to shift the weight of his torso. Now, I know that animating Steven wouldn't be enough, so I decided to add a curtain to the foreground. This gave the shot some more depth and more movement. Plus, flowing fabric looks pretty in my opinion. For the curtain, I studied Weilin Zhang's animation and tried to follow the arc of a wave down the fabric. I noticed that a lot of anime use lower frame rates for environment details, such as fabric or effects. So the curtain was animated on 3s, or 8 frames per second. By the way, I also painted a background. It wasn't that interesting, it only took me like an hour, but I mean, I did it. I tried to make it as realistic as possible, with some brushstrokes showing through, since that's the style most anime go for. It was time to move on to cleanup. Anyone interested in the behind the scenes of anime will recognize the word Genga. Genga is a Japanese name given to keyframe drawings. Sometimes they're drawn traditionally with pencil on paper, and sometimes they're done digitally, but they always denote what is and where the shadows and highlights are. The colors can vary between studio to studio, but generally black is used for the line art, which is shown in the final product. Dark blue is used for the shadow line. Red is used for the highlight line. Light blue is used to fill in the shadow. Yellow is used to fill in the highlight. And occasionally the rest of the character is filled in with white, so nothing shows behind them. If you have a more complicated design, then different colors can be used for the hair and skin shadows, such as pink and orange respectively. But for my characters, just the light blue was necessary. Here's a couple tips for drawing Genga in Toon Boom Harmony. After you've drawn the line art and are ready to move on to your shadow and highlight lines, make sure to press the Draw Behind button on the panel on the right so your black lines stay on top. Once you're ready to fill in your lines, select all of the drawings in your timeline, close the gaps if you have any, and then copy the line data to the color layer below by pressing this button. And once you're ready to color, you can change the opacity of your shadow and highlight lines to 0% by using the color panel, so you don't have to erase them manually. I have never drawn Genga before, and I gotta say, it really has helped me with coloring and shading. Plus, I just think Genga looks cool on its own. Thanks to my clean Genga, coloring was as easy as using the paint bucket tool on each of the parts. It was super rewarding getting to see the characters look how they were supposed to after all of this time. After coloring was compositing. possibly one of the most important parts of mimicking the anime style. A lot of anime studios use After Effects to composite their shows. This really gives their animations that pristine finish I was looking for. I exported Steven, Greg, and the curtain separately as .swift files, and then put them into the project. Swift files are compatible with Adobe products and have transparency enabled, but if you can't export as a Swift, then you can also export as PNG sequences. The first thing I did was I added a subsurface scattering effect on all of the assets. This made the light feel more glowy and bring some life to the skin. I did this by duplicating the layer, blurring it, and then setting its blending mode to hue. Next, I cut out some overlapping bed sheets on Greg using the shape tool, and then I added a drop shadow on him. Both these effects made the character feel more connected to their environment. I created a subtle spotlight on Steven by using the shape tool, blurring it, setting its blending mode to overlay, and then setting its matte to the Steven layer. I did the same thing over to the left to mimic the pink reflective light coming from the curtain. Anime tend to use a lot of gradients like these in order to make the flat shading of the characters look visually interesting. Okay guys, I swear, we're almost done. I blurred the curtain in the foreground and turned down its opacity. I also added in another gradient to represent the moonlight coming from outside. I added a chromatic aberration effect on the curtain. It's where the edge of an object kinda looks like a rainbow. It's what happens when a real-life camera is capturing an object that is out of focus. Chromatic aberration is used a lot in anime. I added some more gradients on the right to darken that area, and then I did some final color correction over everything to make the shadows more blue and the highlights more red. Phew! That was a lot, but it just goes to show how much work goes into the post-production of anime. So to recap, in order to animate in the anime style, you should have realistic, human-like movements animated smoothly. Try to incorporate some environmental animation, such as fabric or effects. Plan out your shadows and highlights by drawing Genga. Use your Genga as a reference when coloring. And go crazy in the compositing, making heavy use of gradients and blur. I hope you enjoyed this process and found at least some of it useful. Now, this is only one way of achieving the anime look, which skews more so to modern day. There are, of course, many different styles, such as the Studio Ghibli style, or the styles of the 60s all the way up to the 90s. If you want to learn how to animate in those styles, be sure to let me know in the comments. Look out for the reanimate when it's finished. Once it's uploaded, I'll link it to this video. Anyway, I've rambled on for way too long now. Be sure to like the video and subscribe for more. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!